You get the promotion. You lose the weight. You say yes to everything. You make everyone happy. And somehow, it still doesn't feel like enough. You're still waiting for that moment when you finally deserve to be loved. When you finally earn it. But what if I told you that the reason nothing feels enough is because you were never supposed to earn love in the first place? There's this quiet tragedy that plays out in millions of lives every single day. People who are objectively successful, who have everything going for them, who look like they have it all together, wake up with this hollow feeling in their chest. This voice that whispers, you're still not there yet. You're still not good enough. And no matter how much they achieve, how much they give, how perfect they try to be, that voice never goes away. Because the problem isn't what you're doing. The problem is what you learned love meant when you were too young to question it. Let me paint you a picture. You're a kid, maybe 7 or 8 years old, and you bring home a test. You got a 94. You're excited. You run to show your parents. But instead of celebrating with you, they ask why you missed those 2 questions. Or maybe they don't say anything at all. They just look disappointed. Not angry. Just disappointed. And somehow, that's worse. In that moment, something clicks in your brain. A connection forms. Love equals performance. Approval equals achievement. Your worth equals what you produce. Or maybe it looked different in your house. Maybe your parents were dealing with their own pain, addiction, depression, anger, and you learned that your job was to keep the peace, to read the room, to make sure everyone else was okay first. You became the emotional thermostat, the good kid, the one who never caused problems, the one who learned that love wasn't something freely given. It was something you had to earn by being useful, by being convenient, by disappearing your own needs so others could be comfortable. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it conditional love. It's when affection, attention, and approval are tied to specific conditions. When you have to meet certain expectations to receive love. When love gets withdrawn as punishment for falling short. And here's what makes this so damaging. Children will do anything for attachment. Anything. Even abandon themselves. Because to a child, losing love feels like dying. So they learn to perform. They learn to please. They learn to be perfect. Not because they want to, because they have to survive. Research shows that when children experience conditional love, it fundamentally rewires their brain. They develop something called contingent self-worth. This means your sense of value becomes completely dependent on external factors. Your grades, your achievements, other people's approval. You internalize the belief that you're only worthy when you're meeting someone else's standards. And the most tragic part? This doesn't go away when you grow up. It follows you. It shapes every relationship you have, every decision you make, every moment you spend judging yourself. Scientists have found that conditional love creates hypervigilance in the nervous system. You're always scanning for danger, always monitoring how people react to you, always trying to predict what they need so you can give it to them before they even ask. Your body never relaxes because love feels like something you could lose at any moment if you're not careful, if you're not good enough, if you mess up. This isn't anxiety for no reason. This is your nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. Stay alert. Stay vigilant. Because love is conditional, and you have to keep earning it. Studies on attachment theory reveal something heartbreaking. When parents show love only when their children behave a certain way or achieve certain things, those children grow up believing they're fundamentally flawed, that their true self is wrong, that who they really are isn't good enough to be loved. So they build a mask, a version of themselves that performs well, that achieves, that pleases, that never asks for too much. And this mask becomes so convincing that even they forget it's not who they really are. The research is clear on this. Conditional love doesn't create healthy, high-achieving adults. It creates adults who are driven by fear, who set impossible standards for themselves, who can't celebrate their wins because they're already focused on the next thing they have to accomplish to prove their worth. Psychologists call this maladaptive perfectionism. It's not about excellence, it's about terror. Terror of being exposed as not good enough. Terror of losing love if you fail. Terror that the world will finally see you're just pretending. Here's how this plays out in adulthood. You become a perfectionist. But not the healthy kind who strives for excellence. The kind who can't sleep at night because you made a small mistake at work. The kind who redoes projects 5 times because it's not quite right. The kind who feels physically sick when someone criticizes you because it confirms what you've always feared. That you're not good enough. That you never were. Research shows that this type of perfectionism is linked to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and even thoughts of suicide. Because when your worth depends on being perfect, and perfection is impossible, you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of feeling like a failure. You become a people pleaser. You say yes when you want to say no. You take on other people's emotions like they're your responsibility. You can feel when someone's upset and you immediately think it's your job to fix it. You apologize for things that aren't your fault. You worry constantly about being a burden, about asking for too much, about disappointing people. Because love in your world has always been conditional on making others happy, on being easy, on not having needs. Studies show that people who grew up with conditional love have difficulty setting boundaries, because saying no feels like risking abandonment, like confirming that you're selfish, like losing the love you've worked so hard to earn. You become hyper-independent. You refuse help even when you're drowning. You pride yourself on not needing anyone. People praise you for being so strong, so self-sufficient, so independent. But here's the truth. You're not independent by choice. You're independent because you learned that needing people is dangerous, that showing vulnerability gets you rejected, that the only safe way to exist is to never let anyone see that you're struggling. Research on attachment patterns shows that this kind of independence isn't healthy autonomy. It's a trauma response. It's your nervous system saying, I can't trust anyone to be there for me, so I won't risk depending on them. You become an overachiever. Your resume looks incredible, your life looks successful, but inside, you feel empty. Because no achievement actually fills the hole. You get the degree, and immediately start planning the next one. You get the promotion, and the first thought is what's next. You reach the goal and move the goalpost. Studies on conditional self-esteem show that when your worth is tied to achievements, you can never achieve enough. Because the problem isn't what you've accomplished. The problem is the belief system underneath it all. The belief that you have to earn love, that you have to prove your worth, that who you are isn't enough. You struggle in relationships. Either you pick partners who are emotionally unavailable, and you spend all your energy trying to earn their love, just like you did as a child. Or you pick partners who love you unconditionally, and you can't accept it. You don't trust it. You wait for the other shoe to drop. You test them to see if they'll leave. Because unconditional love feels wrong when you've been trained to believe that love has to be earned. Research shows that adults who experienced conditional love in childhood often repeat those patterns. Not because they want to, but because it's familiar. Because their nervous system recognizes it. Because it feels like home, even though it hurts. And here's the cruelest part of all. You look around and see other people who seem to just exist without this constant need to prove themselves. People who rest without guilt. Who say no without apologizing. Who believe they're worthy just because they exist. And you wonder what's wrong with you. Why can't you just relax? Why can't you just be happy with what you have? Why does everything feel like a test you might fail? Studies on self-worth reveal something important. The problem isn't you. The problem is what you learned. And what you learned can be unlearned. Let's talk about what actually happens in your brain when you grow up with conditional love. Researchers have found that your brain develops neural pathways that constantly evaluate your worth. It's like having a voice in your head that sounds like your parents, your teachers, anyone whose approval you needed as a child. This voice critiques everything you do. It tells you that you should be doing more, that you're falling behind, that other people are better, that you're going to disappoint everyone. And the emotional response you have to this voice, the shame, the guilt, the anxiety, that's your nervous system treating these thoughts as if they're true, as if your survival actually depends on meeting these impossible standards. Neuroscience shows us something fascinating. When you experience conditional love as a child, your brain learns to associate love with performance. The reward centers in your brain light up when you achieve something, when you make someone happy, when you get approval, but they don't light up just from existing, just from being you. This creates a pattern where you're constantly chasing that hit of validation, that moment of approval, that feeling of being enough. But it never lasts, because you can't feel inherently worthy when your brain has been wired to believe worth is something you have to earn. Researchers studying perfectionism have found that people who experience conditional love often develop what they call an inner critic. This is like a part of you that internalized all those critical voices from your past. Your parent who was never satisfied, your teacher who only noticed your mistakes, your coach who demanded more. This inner critic doesn't go away when those people are no longer in your life. It stays with you. It becomes your default voice. And it keeps the cycle going, keeps you striving, keeps you performing, keeps you believing that maybe if you just work a little harder, achieve a little more, you'll finally be enough. Studies show that this impacts your physical health too. The chronic stress of never feeling good enough keeps your nervous system in fight or flight mode. This leads to problems like insomnia, digestive issues, chronic pain, weakened immune system. Your body is literally exhausted from trying to earn love, from trying to be perfect, from never being allowed to rest. Because rest feels dangerous when you've learned that your worth depends on what you produce. So why does nothing ever feel like enough? Because you're trying to fill a need from the outside that can only be met from the inside. You're trying to earn something that was supposed to be yours freely. You're trying to prove you're worthy of love, when the truth is, you were always worthy. You just never got the chance to believe it. Here's what researchers have discovered about healing from conditional love. The first step isn't trying to achieve more or be better. It's recognizing what happened. It's understanding that the voice in your head telling you you're not enough isn't telling the truth. It's repeating a story you learned when you were too young to question it. A story that served a purpose once. It kept you safe. It helped you get the love you needed to survive. But that story isn't serving you anymore. Now it's keeping you trapped. The healing process involves something psychologists call reparenting yourself. This means learning to give yourself what you didn't get as a child. Unconditional acceptance. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to have needs. Permission to rest. This isn't about blaming your parents or wallowing in the past. Most parents do the best they can with what they have. But that doesn't change the fact that you needed something you didn't get. And now you have to give it to yourself. Studies on self-compassion show that when you start treating yourself with the same kindness you'd show a close friend, something shifts. Your nervous system starts to calm down. You stop needing external validation as much because you're learning to validate yourself. You stop chasing achievement like your life depends on it because you're starting to believe you have value beyond what you produce. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, a daily choice to question the old stories and write new ones. Research suggests that therapy can be incredibly helpful for this, particularly approaches like internal family systems, which helps you work with the different parts of yourself. The part that pushes you to be perfect, the part that's terrified of failing, the part that still feels like that child who needed to earn love. When you can understand these parts and show them compassion instead of judgment, healing becomes possible. The truth is this: you were enough before you got the grades, before you got the job, before you made everyone happy, before you achieved anything. You were enough when you were born, when you were a baby who couldn't do anything to earn love. You were loved just for existing. That's how it was supposed to be. And somewhere along the way, someone taught you differently. Someone made you believe you had to earn it. But that doesn't make it true. You don't have to keep performing. You don't have to keep proving yourself. You don't have to earn the right to take up space. The reason nothing feels like enough is because you're measuring yourself against an impossible standard. A standard that says you're only worthy if you're perfect, if you never fail, if everyone approves of you. But that standard is a lie, a cruel one that keeps you trapped in an endless cycle of achieving and still feeling empty. What if you're already enough? What if you've always been enough? What if the only thing standing between you and feeling worthy is your willingness to believe that you don't have to earn love, that it's yours, that it always was? What would change if you stopped trying to prove yourself and started accepting yourself instead? Subscribe for more videos on healing and self-discovery.